This is my hardcore world, where I am working on transforming this acacia biome into an entire Roman city. I've already built my starter base, but now I need a place to properly upgrade my gear. So to make the enchanting building, I've devised a 3-step plan. First, I'll need to prepare all of my gear and tools. I'll then need to gather all of the necessary materials, and last but not least, build it. So let me just come into my nicely organized storage room now and grab some diamonds. And I think 32 should be enough. We really only need the armor because I do have a few pickaxes laying around from before. And so let me just go ahead and craft up our diamond armor here. And there we go. We have our full set of diamond armor, looking so much better than the iron set. And I definitely feel a lot more protected too. And I will make a diamond sword as well, just so we can have the full set of diamond tools. And obviously all my new diamond gear is not enchanted yet, so let's work on fixing that. I don't have enough levels at the moment to do all the enchanting, so I will need a good way to get XP. And last time I did do a bunch of smelting to get all the XP I needed, but it was a little slow and frankly kind of boring. So for now I think I'm actually just going to go to the nether and mine a bunch of quartz. So I'm just going to gather up a bunch of obsidian, and then we can find a spot for the portal. And I do know that I want the portal on this hill, which is where I think I'm going to keep it permanently, because I have a really cool idea for like a nether sort of enchanting temple up here, which I think is going to look super cool. Anyways, we can just throw the portal down and that should be good for now. And you know what? I almost went in, but I probably should bring a shield and maybe a bow, just in case I have to fight any of those pesky ghasts. And it probably wouldn't hurt to have a bit of extra food as well. Well, I'm all geared up, I've got my fancy gold boots on, and now it's time to enter the nether. Okay, let's take a look around. Not bad. You know, I will take a soul sand valley for sure. These are always good because there are just so many bone meal blocks here. So if I need a quick way to get bone meal, this is perfect. Unfortunately, the one thing I came here for at the moment was quartz, and there isn't really a lot of that. And all we're finding are just angry gas, which isn't quite what I'm looking for. Alright, with that gas out of the way, I think we can start looking for some quartz to mine. Well, lucky for me, I did make it back in one piece, but I did have a super close call. But luckily I made it through, and now we're back in the comfort of our amazing home here. But anyways, now that we have all of this quartz, I think I'm just gonna mine it up and start enchanting my gear. Alright, so after some time we got all of our gear enchanted there, and if we look through we can see some pretty nice enchants. So we have protection 4 and aqua affinity on the helmet, protection 3 on the chest plate, protection 4 on the leggings, and then fire protection 1 on the boots, which is pretty bad, but I did pick it for the feather falling 3 because that will definitely save my life in the future. And then for the rest of the tools, they are pretty standard, just like fortune 3, efficiency 4, things like that. But the sword, we definitely got a god sword here with sharpness 4, sweeping edge 3, fire aspect 2, knockback 2, and looting 3, which was just such a crazy enchantment to get. But now that we have all of our gear enchanted, it is now time to move on to step 2 of the plan, which is to gather all of the materials for the build. Now, like I said, the main build's going to be a pretty similar design to this one with the sandstone walls and then the roofs with the brick and acacia wood. But I do want to throw in some new blocks like some tuff, some amethyst, things like that to kind of freshen it up a bit. So first things first, I do have to head back to the desert and start collecting more sand, which of course will be the main block for our build. Alright, so I've gathered a lot of sand and sandstone, which I'm hoping is enough for the build. But now I'll just quickly repair my pickaxe here. And now we can go looking for tuff, which is the other major block I'm going to need. Actually, let me just check if I have any in here. And okay, we have a little bit, but definitely gonna need a lot more than that. So let me just craft up a few torches here, and then I'll head to the mine to grab some tuff. And just with how hard of a time I usually have finding tuff, this could take me a few hours. And there we go, I've gathered a bunch of tuff, but the last material that I'll need to gather that's going to be kind of hard to get will be amethyst. And so far, I don't think I've seen a geode in this world, so I'm going to just go boating around the ocean and hopefully I can spot one sticking out of the floor. And if not, I guess I'll just have to go caving some more, which I guess doesn't hurt, but I would prefer to not spend hours looking for just one geode. Well, I'm back, and who knew geodes were so hard to find? I mean, I kid you not, I spent about 30 minutes just boating around in the ocean looking underwater. That's all I did for 30 minutes and I found nothing. 0 geodes at all. So we're going to try method number 2 of hopefully just finding one in a cave because I cannot be bothered to boat around anymore. It is just so boring. So I'm going to look for some caves to explore and hopefully find a geode in there because I really need some amethyst for this build. Okay, so far I haven't found a geode, but I think this has to be the absolute biggest cave I have ever seen in Minecraft. This is absolutely insane. I mean, this lava pit, it looks like we're in the nether right now. This is actually crazy. Anyways, I've got to keep on exploring this cave and hopefully I find a geode here because surely there's one sticking out somewhere. I mean, that would just be ridiculous if this didn't have any. Oh, and wouldn't you know it, I see a geode right there. However, that is in such a precarious spot that is super risky. But at this point, that's really my only option. So hopefully I don't fall into this lava pit and die. So let's see here. What's the best way to get to this geode? Maybe through here? Somewhere here. I thought it would be... Oh, there it is. It's right below us. Oh, finally we've made it to a geode. This has been like an hour in the making. And it's funny because I don't even need that much. I only need like 10 pieces maybe. But since it just took so long to find it, I'm definitely going to collect as much as I can while I'm here. Alright, so I made it home with all of this amethyst here. And so I think we are pretty much set to start work on the build. Now, first things first, before I actually do any of the building, I need to do quite a bit of terraforming because this hill, although it's not bad, it does need some work on it. And I think the best kind of way to start planning this out is just to start building the pathway. And then as I build the pathway up, I can sort of start to visualize where the different hills and stuff are going to be, which should help a lot with the overall terraforming. And just like that, we have a decent idea of where the main path is going to go. But now it's time to work on the actual terrain. But yeah, like I said, there's going to be a couple builds. So of course, we're going to have the main temple up here. And then I'm thinking of doing a kind of smaller build down here just to kind of fill in this space. And this sort of mid-level plateau is a great spot for that. And then on this side, I think I'm just going to do a bunch of sugarcane because that obviously is a needed resource for enchanting. And yeah, I think that's kind of the rough idea for the build. Obviously, there's quite a bit of terraforming to do because this path right here is definitely way too steep. So I'm going to have to work on that a little bit. And yeah, so hopefully that gives me a good direction on where to put everything else. Alright, so I've got the first round of kind of my basic terraforming done, and it may not look like it did a whole lot, but I really just wanted to get a kind of initial thought on where I'm going to put things. So don't worry, this will look a whole lot better later on. As you might be able to see, I know it's all just dirt, but up there will be the enchanting temple. Then we're going to kind of have the pathway coming down here and out through here. And then down here is just going to be another sort of building, maybe for like farm storage and stuff like that. And then I think over on this side, kind of up this hill, is going to be a bunch of sugarcane. And finally, I will add a few cliffs in here just to kind of break up all of this dirt. Anyways, I am getting a bit tired of just looking at a bunch of brown blocks. So I am going to start on this tinier build here. And so I'm just going to head back to the house, grab up all of the materials I'll need, and I can get started. Now, first things first, obviously this giant dirt square isn't going to be permanent, so we can remove that. Then we can replace that with tuff, which is going to be kind of the foundation block for this build, which should have a overall sturdier look to it. So for this build, I don't want it to be too big just so it doesn't take away from the main build. So I'm thinking of just making this kind of like a 9x9 house, which will be big enough for a bunch of storage for farms, but it definitely won't be big enough to take away from the kind of focal point of the mountain here. Oh yeah, I think that is good. I think something this size definitely doesn't distract from this, well, what will eventually be there. So I think this is a great start here. And now I'm sort of just trying to figure out what to really build in here. And so I think I'm just going to start with changing the floor and adding the second level, because right now there really isn't much going on in here. So of course I need to grab a few more materials. So for the floor, I'm thinking on the base layer it'll just be a mix of packed mud and mud bricks, which I just think complements the sand walls so nicely. It looks so good. But anyways, let's move on to the second floor, which I think will just be dark oak again. And then we also just have a super simple staircase up to the top. I'm sort of envisioning a super tight and compact interior. And so I think a small staircase like this will look just fine in here. Then I think we'll just do the classic fence gate design here, which should give the staircase a bit more of a structure to it. And then all that's left to do is to put a roof onto the build, just like that. Oh, I guess there is one more thing. I do want to add a sort of trim to the side of the walls here. Now I didn't want it to look too perfect and even, so I did add some variation. And so let's see how that looks. Oh, honestly, that doesn't look the best. Okay, let's try something a little different here. Okay, perfect. That looks a lot better. Still not great, but I think once we add all of the rest of the details, it'll start to come together. And there we go. I think we have the exterior done here. And I will admit, it does look a little plain right now, but I think once we add stuff going around here, it'll fit in a lot better. Anyways, let's now move on to the interior, which still looks pretty plain, but we should be able to fix this up no problem. First things first, I think I'm just gonna stick in a few barrels here, along with a chest and some composters, because of course, after all, this is a farming house. And then I'll probably do something similar over here. And then I think in this corner, I'm just gonna throw in a few pots. Of course, you can't forget the lighting. And lastly, I think I'll just throw in a carpet here to kind of fill in this space. Alright, I think that is this floor done. And then for the upstairs, I'm honestly not too sure. I think I might just throw in a few more barrels, chests, and pots, just so it doesn't look super empty from the outside, but really from the inside, I probably won't be up here too often. And there we go. I think that is the farming house complete. At least for now. I may add a bit to it later on, just depending on how the nearby terrain develops. But anyways, now that we have this built done here, I think we can start working on the kind of main portion of this hill here. I was going to put the sugarcane farm in now, however, it is just kind of hard to tell where it's going to go and what this part is going to look like after we finish the main build, so I think I'll just start working on that for now. Now the problem I currently have is I'm not sure if I should do stone or tuff for the cliffs. I think the tuff would look really good with our overall theme. However, the foundations for the builds are also tough and that might be too much. So I'm just going to do a quick test batch and see which one I like more. Okay, yeah, I definitely think I like the stone better. The tuff actually does look pretty good. I'm just worried there's not enough blocks to texture the tuff with. Whereas stone, I know I can use cobble, andesite, and a bunch of other blocks, and I could also throw in some tuff in there as well. So I think I'm going to stick with the kind of mostly stone for these cliffs, but definitely going to use some tuff where I can. Perfect, and there we go. And with a bit of texturing and some added shrubbage, this is looking incredible already. And you may have noticed, but what I tried to do with the texturing was instead of just placing random cobble and tuff blocks everywhere, I tried to actually shade it. So in the darker spots, I've added tuff and cobble. And then in the lighter ones where the sun would shine more, I've added just like the regular andesite. And so I am trying to improve my shading in my builds, because normally I kind of just spam the texturing blocks, but this time I really wanted to try and make it look like the lighting was actually impacting the cliffs. And yeah, I know it's not the best, but as time goes on, I will definitely get better at that. But at least for now, I am pretty happy with this. But anyways, now that we have the cliffs in, I kind of have a bit of direction on the rest of the path here. And so I think I'm just going to get started on the main build. I've done a good amount of terraforming, but there's only so much I can do without having the final build in place. And so I think it is finally time we get started on the Enchanting Temple. My goodness, look at that thing behind me. That looks incredible. I think we need to take a few moments to really just appreciate that build, because honestly, that is one of the best enchanting temples I've ever seen. Of course, in my very humble opinion. But yeah, look at this thing just from down here with the cliffs and the foundation peeking out. It just looks so incredible. But anyways, I think that's enough talking about the actual build, because I'm sure you saw a lot of the footage already. I now have to tackle the interior of the build. Now, first things first, I think we need to tackle the floor, because in my infinite wisdom, I ended up building all of this out of tough bricks, knowing that I was going to replace it later. So yeah, now I have to deal with the consequences of my actions. Well, I was working on the floor, but of course I ran out of mud. And since I don't want to walk the thousands of blocks it took me last time to find a swamp, I am actually going to make a mud farm real quick. And I actually think that this house here is going to be the perfect spot. I think there should be enough space in here for a mud farm, so I'm going to whip that up quick, and then I can get back to work on the interior of the Enchanting Temple. And if you also want to build this farm, I'll leave the link to it in the description. And there we go, we have the floor in, and now we can get to work on actually putting stuff on the inside of the build. Now, there are three major things I want to put in here. The first is obviously the enchanting table. The second is the nether portal, and lastly, I do want a small XP farm in here. And believe it or not, you can actually fit one in here. Anyways, I think my idea is to have the nether portal front and center here. And then on this wall here, I'm thinking probably the enchanting table and the XP farm. And that leaves this wall nice and open for some decoration and storage as well. And so I think we've got a good plan there. Now I just have to build it. So first things first, we can get our nether portal in here. And I do want this nether portal to be quite big, as I want it to fill in that back wall nicely. And perfect. I had just enough obsidian to make it this size, which I think is perfect. So now I just want to make a kind of walkway up to the portal. And I know this looks a little weird at the moment, but promise you it will come together better when we have more decorations in here. But before we get to the decorating, I do need to put the enchanting table in here. And yes, I know I put the enchanting table in the main base last episode, but I think it really deserves just a separate build for it. And the whole sort of enchanting theme has just such good decoration surrounding it that if I make a new build for it, I'll have a lot more option of decoration. Anyways, I think right about here should be good for the enchanting table, and then we'll just put in the bookshelves. And then lastly, I think it's time we put in our XP farm, which it's actually an XP farm I've never made before, so this will be super interesting for me. But yeah, I can't really decorate anymore until I know how much space that takes up. Now, this XP farm actually uses armadillos, which is super interesting to me and definitely a new style of XP farm that I've never made before. So I'll quickly whip up this farm, and just like the mud farm, I will leave the link to the tutorial in the description. Well, do you hear that sound? That is the sound of about 20 armadillos just constantly being on fire. And yeah, I didn't realize how loud this XP farm would be, so that was kind of my bad. Luckily, I normally play with like the friendly mobs audios down anyways. But yeah, just know that if you do build this in your own world, it is very loud. But anyways, I think I have the XP farm pretty much set up here. Now, I did find a brewing stand at a nearby village, which I thought was all I needed for the farm. But I forgot that you do need the blaze powder to actually brew potions. So that does mean a trip to the nether to find a nether fortress and then kill some blazes. What the heck are these guys doing in here? Now, I am hoping for this to be a pretty short trip because I don't want to spend a lot of time in here. I'm here to just get the blaze powder and get out. But unfortunately, I don't think that'll be the case because I've yet to see a nether fortress in here, and the biome that we got is very hard to traverse through, so this could take a while. Well, what a trip that was. Oh my gosh. The first nether fortress I found didn't actually have any nether wart, so I had to go to 2 separate nether fortresses for this. But we are back now and better than ever because I have 12 blaze rods, 20 nether wart, and I even got a wither skeleton skull, which I wasn't looking for, but that's going to be super useful later on when we need to make a beacon. Anyways, I can finally start brewing up these potions and we can test out the XP farm. And if you're wondering how this XP farm works, well, pretty much we brew up one of these potion of infestations, which just makes it so that every time a mob takes damage, they have a certain % chance of spawning silverfish. And since the armadillos are constantly taking damage, they should spawn a whole lot. Now, I do have my mob volume down quite a bit, but just a warning, this could get loud. So here we go. Okay, there we go. I thought they would spawn a little faster, to be honest, but this is pretty good. And then we should just have to come down here and start hitting the armor stand. Oh, and the armor stand broke. Oh no, that's not good. Oh no, I have to go get another armor stand. Oh no, I hope they don't like start breaking out of the farm. Oh my god, look at all of these silverfish. The XP is just flowing in like crazy right now. Wow, and just like that, we are level 41. That is crazy. I went through a lot of trouble to get this farm working, but I'd say it was definitely worth it if it only takes me 3 minutes to get to level 41. I will say the tutorial did say I could use a fire aspect sword as long as I put water here, but it seems like the armor stand still breaks. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And so finally, we have the 3 elements of the interior fully set up here, and I can get to work on the decorations, which I've been waiting to do for so long now. But yeah, my kind of vision for this was to have a sort of overgrown kind of mystical interior here. Kind of like the portal and the enchanting table has brought some sort of magic to this world and kind of taken over the inside of this place. Alright, and I think I am fully done with the interior of the Enchanting Temple. So are you ready? And here it is. Look at that. I really dug into that overgrown kind of theme, and I think this turned out really nicely. So obviously we still have our XP farm here, nice and tucked away in this corner. Then we have our enchanting table, and then of course the big nether portal there, the kind of focal point of the interior. And then over here I just threw in some chests, some barrels, and some pots to kind of make it look like they just piled a bunch of like artifacts in this corner, something like that. And then yeah, just tried to incorporate the chest kind of into the nature a little bit there. And if you are worried about mob spawns up there, it actually is fine. Most of that is slabs, and then where there are moss blocks, which just in case, I don't know if mobs can actually spawn on moss blocks, but if they can, I did carpet them off as well. And then yeah, just stuck a few firefly bushes here and there, and there we have it. And I also put some in the floor just to kind of give off that particle effect everywhere, so now when you walk in, there's those little floating particles everywhere. And it kind of just gives a nice little magical touch to this build. But yeah, I think I'm going to call this good here. I think it turned out pretty good. But of course, we still have more to get done. But yeah, I think I'm going to kind of buckle down and work on the last few things for this build. That being, of course, the sugarcane, the pathways, and then any other details around the path, maybe some trees as well. And then we should be pretty close on finishing the entire build. Alright, we've finished all of the building for the exterior here, and now I can walk you through it. And oh my gosh, look at how incredible this looks. I am so happy with how this turned out. It just looks so immersive with all of the foliage around. And yeah, I just love the trees peeking over there as well. It just looks so awesome. But yeah, I honestly just can't stop running through this because it is just so fun and so immersive going through all of this. It honestly just kind of blows my mind every time I run through here. But yeah, I think this turned out so awesome, and I just really love how this looks. And honestly, I think this might be one of the best things I've ever built because it is just so good. Not only is the build pretty good, but I think what really sells it is all of the surrounding details. But anyways, I think that's enough talking about this build, and now we have to head back to the starter base because I need to do a bit more work here before I end off the episode. Now before, I did talk about the interior, and although we did do a lot of decorating last episode, there is still a lot of empty space that I need help filling. And you guys left a lot of really helpful comments last episode, so I think I'm going to start putting some of those in now. And the first one I think will be a chandelier for the area here, because I think that would look pretty cool hanging down in front of the doors here. Now, I generally don't make a whole lot of chandeliers. Well, actually, I don't think I've ever made one in my life before. So this will be interesting because I'm going to kind of piece it together as I go here. And I don't think it has to be anything too crazy because it is a pretty low ceiling, so we don't have a lot of space to work with here. Let's just see how something like that works. Oh, you know, it's not bad. Now, I actually think that looks pretty good, but I do want to try fixing that block there because there's just like a little too much tuff here. Okay, I switched up the design a little bit there, adding a few more of those iron bars to kind of break up that tuff. And I think it looks decent. I mean, as far as what I can do in here, I think it's not bad. So yeah, I think I'll stick with this for now. And then if you have any suggestions, of course, please let me know in the comments below. And now the second idea was to kind of go around and add some furniture. I know a lot of people suggested some couches and chairs in this area. And I did try and do that last episode, but it wasn't really turning out good, so I'm gonna try again here. And I think something just like that is fine. It's super simple, but honestly, I don't really know what else to do. And I am pretty bad at making furniture in Minecraft, so I think this will do for now. And I guess overall the main floor is pretty good. I think it's mostly the upstairs that needs a lot of work still. And so for up here, one suggestion I really liked was adding a sort of throne right here, nice in front and center with the balcony. And so I thought that was a pretty good idea. And so for this, I think a mix of green wool with the tough bricks is going to look really good. And there we go, we have our throne here where we can rule over our city. But now we can move on to this side of the upstairs where I think I'm going to put in a war room, which will also kind of serve as a map room. And I think the first thing we're going to need is a sort of war table where they can kind of strategize their moves. And I think if I put some carpet up here, it'll kind of look like they have a giant paper map sort of just laid over the table here. And I did want to try and see if I could hang banners here, but I am worried they're going to peek through the floor in the first floor, so let's go find out. Oh, and yeah, unfortunately they do peek through the bottom. But anyways, I still think this looks pretty good like this. Of course, we need all of our normal decorations in here, but I think instead of having these chests and barrels here, I want to replace this with a sort of treasure area where I can put all the old tools and armor I've had throughout the world. Just something simple like this to kind of show the progression of our tools throughout the world. And so I've just gone ahead and also added the rough day counter of when we got these items. And I think that looks super cool, kind of really documenting when we got these things. Anyways, that's kind of all the tools I have there for now, but of course this will expand more as we progress. And I also just threw together a few paintings on the walls. These might not stay here forever, but they do kind of fill in the blank space on those walls there. And yeah, I like this one down here because it kind of looks like a map, which will be our map for the meantime, until of course we get an actual functional map. But for now, I think I'm gonna call that there. I'm going to kind of claim the starter base as a work in progress because as you give me more suggestions, I'll get more ideas on what to put up here. But for now, it definitely looks a lot better than it did before. But anyways, I think that's where I'm going to end off this video. And before I go, I just want to thank you all so much for the support on the first episode. It was really incredible. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.